Single dad woke up to find female CEO in his shirt, then she said something he couldn't believe. Jake Morrison's heart stopped when he opened his eyes that Sunday morning. There, standing in his kitchen wearing his oversized Yale t-shirt and holding a coffee mug like she owned the place, was the woman from the news. The CEO. The billionaire. The same woman whose face had been plastered across every business magazine for the past 6 months. And she was in his apartment, in his shirt, smiling at him like this was the most natural thing in the world. His 6-year-old daughter Emma sat at the table, giggling and coloring, completely unfazed. Jake rubbed his eyes, certain he was still dreaming. But when he opened them again, she was still there. And what she said next would change everything he thought he knew about success, struggle, and the unexpected places kindness can lead us. If stories like this touch your heart, you're in the right place. Welcome to Heartfelt Moments, where we share real stories about real people whose acts of kindness remind us what truly matters. Please take a moment to subscribe, hit that like button, and drop a comment below telling us about a time when someone's kindness changed your day. Your story might be featured in our next video. Now, let's get back to Jake's unbelievable morning. 24 hours earlier, Jake's life looked nothing like this surreal Sunday morning. He was rushing through the pouring rain after his double shift at the warehouse, picking up Emma from after-school care, already calculating whether he could afford to fix the broken heating system or pay the electricity bill this month. Being a single dad meant choosing between impossible options every single day. The rain came down in sheets as he hurried to his car with Emma bundled in his jacket. That's when he saw her. A woman in an expensive business suit, crouched beside a black Mercedes with a flat tire, completely soaked, fumbling with her phone. Most people walked right past her. After all, someone driving a car like that could afford help, right? But Jake couldn't just walk away. His mama had raised him better than that. He approached carefully, Emma's small hand in his, and offered to help. The woman looked up, mascara running down her cheeks, and Jake saw something unexpected in her eyes. Not entitlement or annoyance, but genuine relief mixed with something that looked like loneliness. Her name was Catherine Reeves, though she didn't mention that part yet. Her phone had died, she'd been stuck there for 40 minutes, and her carefully controlled composure was cracking. Jake changed her tire in the pouring rain while Emma sang songs from the warmth of their beat-up Honda. His hands were freezing, his work clothes were ruined, but he just kept working, the way he always did. Catherine offered him money. Jake politely refused. She insisted. He shook his head with a tired smile and said something his mama used to tell him, "Kindness isn't kindness if you're keeping score." Then he loaded Emma into the car and drove away, not thinking much of it. Just another moment in another hard day. Except Catherine couldn't stop thinking about it. This man, clearly struggling, had helped her without hesitation or expectation. No recognition of who she was. No angling for advantage. Just pure, simple human decency in a world where she'd grown accustomed to people wanting something from her. She did something she rarely did. She followed her instinct instead of her schedule. Using the warehouse logo on Jake's wet jacket, she tracked down where he worked. What she discovered made her heart ache. Jake Morrison, 28 years old, working 60-hour weeks to support his daughter after his wife had left them both 2 years ago. Living paycheck to paycheck. Behind on bills. And still, somehow, still stopping to help strangers in the rain. The next evening, Catherine showed up at Jake's apartment building just as he was getting home with Emma. His face went pale when he recognized her. Had he done something wrong? Was she upset about the tire? But Catherine just smiled and asked if she could take them to dinner as a thank you. Jake hesitated, but Emma's excited eyes made the decision for him. At dinner, Catherine didn't talk about business or money. She talked about her own father, a mechanic who'd raised her alone after her mother passed away. She talked about the values he'd instilled in her before he died, values she worried she'd lost somewhere in the climb to the top. She looked at Jake with his daughter and saw everything she'd been too busy to appreciate about where she came from. That's when Emma, in her innocent 6-year-old wisdom, invited Catherine to their apartment for a sleepover. Jake stammered an apology, but Catherine laughed. A real laugh, the kind she hadn't experienced in years. And somehow, that ridiculous invitation turned into coffee at their apartment, which turned into Catherine helping Emma with a school project, which turned into late-night conversations about life and loss and dreams. Jake fell asleep on the couch, exhausted from his shift. When Catherine realized how cold the apartment was due to the broken heating, she found Jake's warmest shirt and stayed, making sure Emma had enough blankets, too protective of this little family's peace to wake them by leaving. Which brings us back to that Sunday morning. Jake, frozen in shock, staring at a billionaire CEO in his kitchen. Catherine set down her coffee and said the words he couldn't believe, "I want to offer you a job. Director of Community Outreach at Rees Industries. Not because you changed my tire, but because you showed me what my company has been missing. We've forgotten how to see people. You haven't. I need that. We need that." Jake didn't know whether to laugh or cry. The salary she mentioned was more than he made in a year. But more than that, she was offering him purpose, the chance to spread the same kindness that had always guided him, just on a bigger scale. 6 months later, Jake's programs were transforming communities across 3 states. Catherine had become not just his boss, but his closest friend. And sometimes, when they worked late on new initiatives, Emma would remind them both what had started it all, one person seeing another person's need and simply choosing to help. Because that's the thing about kindness. You never know where it leads. That stranger you help today might change your tomorrow. Or maybe they won't, and that's okay too. Kindness isn't an investment. It's not a strategy. It's simply the recognition that we're all just people trying to get through this life, and sometimes, the smallest gesture creates the biggest ripples. So the next time you see someone who needs help, remember Jake. Remember that your moment of compassion might be exactly what someone needs to remember hope. Be the person who stops in the rain. Be the person who sees others, really sees them. Be the kindness you want to exist in this world. Because you never know whose life you might change. And you definitely never know whose life might change yours.